Okay, now we're live. Nothing like the beauty of technical difficulties. So, welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Today I have Megan Rempel on with me. I'm really, really stoked about this conversation. I always say that for interviews, but I am. I just get really excited. So, before we started recording, we were talking about, interruptions and just kind of like showing up and how it is, right? So she's got kids running around in the background. I got trains and trucks going by. So if you guys hear some things, it's just part of life, right? I met Megan in person at a retreat. Has it been almost 3 years ago now?
2 years.
She was my roomie in the Muskokas. And so I am forever grateful that you were my roomie, because I think I would have killed anybody else that I would have been roomed with. So it was definitely meant to be. You were the only person there that just kind of like let me be without trying to like fix me. So, man, I can't believe that was already like 2 years ago. It seems almost like it was yesterday, but so that's how I know Megan. We met each other online previous to that, but in person, that was probably the first time, right?
Yeah, I don't even know if we had met online.
No.
Like I was so new to the program and to that community that I didn't really know anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just so funny to see like the transition of like who you were that day when we first met.
I don't even know who I was that day, so you might have told me.
And like how intimidated I felt, like walking into that little tiny bedroom with two tiny beds and just seeing you there, and I was like, oh boy, okay. I knew like one of my strengths but also a weakness of mine is that I can sort of like I can read people's energy really well and sort of like conform to that energy for them, whether that's like good or bad. So like I knew I wasn't gonna come bounding in there like, hi, I'm so excited. Like, let's hug. Like I could tell right away, like, oh, okay, have like a little distance and just feel this one out. But yeah, I think we clicked in like a non-communicating way almost, like right away.
It was very nonverbal, which is just so funny that like, and I think we had a few in-depth conversations throughout the time. And I remember you came up to me one time and you're like, I don't know why people just won't leave you alone. Like, can they not see that you want to kill people in your face?
Yeah, like everyone's trying to hug you. I'm like, are you guys blind? Like, can you not see that she doesn't want to be hugged right now?
No, I just wanted to punch people, except for you. You and Heather, I didn't want to punch. Actually, I didn't want to punch most of the people. I was just like lots of weird energy. But anyway, so that's where we met. You are a health and wellness coach or an accountability coach. I'm not really sure what your title, I guess, is. You're a mom of 4. You're also a nurse. And I saw you post the other day, and again, this is just going to be kind of like a casual conversation, but I saw you post the other day because I still follow you to this day. I've been part of your wellness community. I've done workouts with you. I don't know, I really enjoy you as a person. So I'm constantly creeping. And one of these days we're going to, I don't know, have our own retreat and hang out maybe. Just throwing that out there. But you posted that one of your trips was canceled and how you guys were taking that, and that it was okay to be sad about it with all this stuff that's going on. So can we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. So I was supposed to be leaving tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. actually, on a trip with my older 3 kids. So they are 10, 8, 10, 9, and 7 now. And we were supposed to be leaving for Punta Cana for a week. And I mean, we have been looking forward to this vacation for so long. Literally, the kids have been counting down for a full year when we're going to be leaving. And for the last 6 weeks, it's just been nonstop talking about this trip. And I just like envisioned what it was going to be like for these 7 days to just hang out with them without, my youngest being there. And it was just going to be so fun and full of adventure and relaxation and just like connecting with them. And then of course, all of this has transpired over the last, like even just week, it seems like. and it was canceled. And it just like hit me like a sucker punch. And it's like, it seems silly, but it honestly felt like one of the worst things that had happened to me. Like, and it's obviously not the worst thing that could happen to anybody, but it was in that moment because I didn't want to disappoint my kids. I just didn't want to have that conversation with them and tell them like, guys, I'm so sorry, but what we've been looking forward to and planning for so long is not going to happen. And I knew that that was just going to crush them, but it was also so devastating for myself too. And it was like sad. Like I cried for probably 2 full days. I cried for like 24 hours and like hid that sadness from my kids before I finally told them the truth about what was going on. And it was very, very heart-wrenching. And then I would feel really silly at the same time because I'm like, Megan, it's a trip. Like, it's fine. Life goes on. People are dying in the world. Like there's way more sad things happening in people's lives than like, ooh, your all-inclusive vacations canceled. Like talk about third world or first world problems, right? But then someone actually reminded me like, it's okay to feel sad about these seemingly insignificant things that happen in our life, whether it's a trip that got canceled, or someone being very ill and dying, or concert tickets being canceled, or plans that you had just with some friends to meet up on the weekend and go out for dinner. Like disappointment is disappointment. And I don't think that we can have like a scale of like, well, this is more disappointing than that. And this is more devastating than this is, because it's to each their own.
I think,
so I just had to, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think what you're saying is, I agree, because we start to get into the comparison mode, you know, like we're comparing our lives to somebody else's lives. And then it's like judging how they feel and projecting our thoughts and feelings onto another person, when like that trip was very much a reality. Like you earned it. You worked really hard for it. You had planned for a year, and to like have it just literally ripped away from you, that sucks. Like, yeah. That sucks a lot. And just because somebody else may have not had this big elaborate trip planned doesn't mean that that sucks any less for you.
Yeah, it's true. And I think we all, to some degree or another, are facing disappointment. Like no matter what it is, we're all like feeling something. And it's so true what you said. Like we always try to like minimize our own thing. Like, oh, but it's there could be worse things. Like this person is worse off, so I can't really complain, or I can't be honest about how I feel. And it's like, you know what? I'm actually just going to sit in this like shitty place and this like disappointment and this sad shit that we're sitting in. And I'm like, I'm just going to sit here and sit in it and deal with it and feel it, instead of being like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, onward and upward, bigger fish to fry. And then when I did tell my kids about it, same thing. Like, I mean, immediately they burst into tears. And of course I then burst into tears, but I'm just like, instead of trying to numb it, and I mean, I did have cupcakes hidden for them to stop the blow, like I for sure did. But at the same time, it's like, let's just feel it, instead of being like, but we could do this and this, and like trying to like make it like shine a happy light on it somewhere. I was like, it sucks, guys. Like there's no way around this. We just have to mourn it. Let's cry. Let's talk about it. Let's just sit in it and feel it. And in a couple days, it won't feel as bad, which is exactly what happened. But it's still sad. I mean, this isn't just because of the virus that's going around. This is like life. Like stuff like this happens in life every single day. And we just have to allow ourselves to like feel the disappointment and the sadness of whatever comes our way in whatever season of life, really.
Yeah. And I agree with that. You know, for me, like what comes up is it's like that gold star, right? You know, we try to like hide all of those things from our kids, and we just want to like reward them, give them gold stars, make everything better. And while that's all fine and dandy, someday they're going to be adults and they're going to face disappointment. And just knowing that like, hey, like life happens, things don't always go as planned, and it's okay to feel your feelings. You know, I can't remember who it was. I learned this a while ago, but the more we suppress those emotions and push them down and push them down and push them down, it's like putting pressure on that volcano. And then it's going to be one little thing will make the whole thing erupt, versus if you just deal with it now while you're feeling them, they will pass. It's a not a temperature, but like a pressure relief valve that you have on your body, and just allowing yourself to like let those feelings go, let your kids have those feelings. But I do think that it's really cool that you said, oh, as soon as I told my kids, they immediately burst into tears. Like, a lot of adults don't allow themselves to just immediately burst into tears when they, hear bad news. They think they have to like fight back the tears and fight back the emotion and like go run and hide in a closet to be able to let any of that out. So I think that's pretty cool that you just are teaching them that.
Yeah, and it's true. We don't allow ourselves even to do that. And even other people who were going on this trip as well, it's like I was watching how they were reacting and I'm like, why are they fine? Like, well, why are they seemingly fine? Why are they not upset? How are they like carrying on? And like, meanwhile, I'm crying and eating cupcakes. Like, what is up with that? And it's like, well, I'm just actually being honest about how I'm feeling. And if other people truly were honest about how they're feeling, instead of hiding behind like funny memes and jokes and like, different things on social media, it's like, actually just say what you're feeling. Like everything that's kind of going on in our world right now is obviously a little bit scary, and it's okay to say like, I'm actually kind of scared right now. I'm not panicking, but I'm actually kind of scared. But instead what happens is like the projection, and everybody's projecting judgment and jokes and just like, and it's like, well, what are you actually hiding behind? Like, what is underlying there? And I know that this is like touching home with me, because someone very close to me has been not taking any of this serious, like this whole virus and outbreak, and is like, no big deal. Why is everyone stopping shopping and being out and about? And and judging those of us who are maybe being more proactive and taking it seriously. And at the bottom of it is, this person is actually very fearful for their small business that they run. And they have so much fear behind what is going to happen. And so instead of just going like, holy shit, like this is going to have a big impact on us and it's scary, they're just projecting and being like, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. I'm going to share this article and share this and share that to prove that this isn't as serious as it is. Meanwhile, it's all fear.
Exactly. I was just going to say they're fearful. And this goes to like, even like managing our emotions and stuff. A lot of times people are fearful and they'll be like, oh, quit crying, quit being a Sally, quit being a sissy. And I know this is me. I used to make fun of people who cried because I was like, oh, what a wimp, like what a wuss. But really on the inside, I was like, man, like I wish I had the balls to cry in front of somebody, but we just like push that stuff down and we project our own stuff onto other people. And, I mean, I'm not saying that like I'm like the world's going to end and I'm like prepping for doomsday, but I'm also not like in panic mode, but I'm also not like ignorant where I'm like just avoiding everything and pretending that like, oh, this is just rainbows and butterflies, like life as usual, but I feel like even, and I know you've been doing personal development and working on yourself for years, and so have I. And I feel like it's almost like helped us in this sense, because we can still have this calm about it, but still be worried, maybe still be a little like uneasy because we don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot that's out of our control, but that goes to like the things that we can control, helps us to kind of create that calm and not project that fear, and even not talk about the fear with our kids, because I feel like the most contagious thing is fear, right? And so how do we come at this from a cautious standpoint, but not a fearful standpoint? Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally makes sense. Yeah. And I think I was actually saying to someone this morning how I am like so grateful that I started doing this internal work a couple years ago, because I'm not sure how I would be dealing with all of these changes. Even the simple change of having my 4 children at home for the next 3 weeks for sure, if not longer, like that would have sent me into a tailspin of, oh my gosh, how am I going to manage them? And that's now not a shock to me. It's like, okay, I can cope with this. I can deal with this because I have routines in place and I have worked on myself and my mindset. And I'm not panicking just because other people are panicking, and I'm not hiding behind jokes. It's like I could be at this neutral place of like, this is reality, this is the situation, and just like dealing with it in a like controlled manner, basically.
Yeah, I like that. And they just closed our schools here for 4 weeks. I think they announced it Sunday night. So then, you know, and this is something that I'm trying to manage is limiting my time on social media, because this like chaos creates more chaos, panic creates more panic, fear creates more fear. And I feel like a lot of the people who are on social media now, at least in like my news feed, are very panic ridden, very fear ridden, like, blah, what are we going to do? And it's like, well, you'll figure it out. But first you got to come from like a calm state, like get your own shit together so that then you can help support those around you. But it created like this immediate like chaos. And I was like, I got to shut this shit down, because I can't give that negative energy, you know, give that energy, that attention, right? Because then I just start to absorb that. And so my kids are still young enough to where they're not in school, so it doesn't immediately affect me, but I do recognize that this affects a lot of people, and they don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know what to do with their kids. And so I think there's a lot of just anxiety about the unknown, or like, how do I become a teacher all of a sudden? And they're creating all of these unrealistic expectations on themselves. And like, you don't have to go from mom to teacher or like working mom to teacher mode. Like, you can still teach your children without having to be a quote unquote like teacher with a curriculum, you know? It's like, what have you guys done because you've been like in this mode for the last week or so, right?
Well, yes. So we had school up until Friday. So
Okay.
it was like the first week, but this was supposed to be our spring break.
Oh, okay.
So the kids were going to be home this week anyways. I mean, we were going to be hanging out on a beach, but whatever. So this week I'm kind of like, yeah, this week I'm kind of like being a little more flexible of like, all right, this was supposed to be a super fun week. So I'm not being too structured and routine with them, but I am somewhat like, even this morning I really had to talk with them like, we aren't going to be in the kitchen snacking all day long. Like, there will be like specific meal times and snack times, because
a free for all
of them. Like, it's just a free for all, right? They're like, I'm hungry, and now I'm hungry, and an hour later that one's hungry, and an hour later that one's hungry.
Literally, you're just like, snacks.
Oh, it's true. Like, all day long, I'm like, I will have no part of this. And just having like a little bit of structure, like for instance, this, like, okay, today I've got to do this podcast interview. So you guys need to figure out something for an hour that you can do quietly while I'm in my office doing this. And then I'll make sure that I get off of the computer and out of my office and go do something with them for an hour. So, yeah, like, do you want to just dive into like kind of routines? And
yeah, exactly. And that's kind of where I was going with this, because you are like the morning routine queen, and I know you probably weren't always like that, at least from what I've heard you talk about. You used to let your screaming children wake you up, and I know a lot of women can relate to that. Hell, I mean, there's times that I can relate to that. Even though I still have a morning routine, it's like the goal is to beat the kids awake, right? So I can have that 5 minutes of quiet or 50 minutes of quiet, whatever that ends up looking like. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I obviously didn't always have a morning routine, because nobody just is born with one, obviously. But what life was like a few years ago, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, was like utter chaos. So I had, I don't know how old they were, but they were all so young. They were like 5 and under, all of them. And my husband was working out west on the pipeline. So he would be gone for 3 months at a time. So I was like completely on my own, solo parenting with all of these like tiny babies who are so demanding and so needy. And I wasn't working on myself at all. Like I just wasn't doing anything for myself. And I was in complete survival mode. And I would wake up every single day to the sounds of my kids crying, screaming, or like one of them standing looking at me, like asking for breakfast at whatever time of morning it was. And that's how I started my day. I didn't know any differently, but it was exhausting. I woke up exhausted because I was already like up several times through the night, like most moms are. And then I would wake up to them needing me. So I would finally crawl out of bed eventually when like more than a couple of them start crying and screaming. And then it's like, all right, breakfast, bottles, diaper changes. Like you just go through the motions and you're like, ugh. Like obviously I love my children. I don't need to say it. I'll probably say it like 5 times during this conversation just so
Isn't that
everyone's
weird?
aware.
You feel like you have to say you love your children, even though like in the moment you're like, I do not like this right now. I hate
Yeah.
everything about this. I love you, but I hate this.
Yeah. And like, and so that's how my day started every single day. And then it was like, all right. And then you go lay on the couch for a little while and you drink a ton of coffee and the kids crawl around you for a while and you watch dumb treehouse shows or you like whatever you've got going on. And like, you just lay there and
Bubble Guppies Bazaars.
yeah, and like you scroll your phone mindlessly and you stay in your pajamas till like 11 a.m. and then finally you're like, oh my God, we got to do something. So then you go out for like the longest, slowest walk possible with like these toddlers and babies and, you know, and then you do nap time and snack time and then like, oh shit, it's dinner and I've got to cook again. And then I would literally go through my whole day waiting for it to be bedtime, like waiting for it to be like 7:30 when I knew I could put all the kids to bed. And luckily I've always like been like a real hard ass with bedtime. So I've gotten like a really awesome bedtime routine with my kids, just like very easy into bed done. Because I've always been on my own. So I had to be a real hard ass about bedtime. And then I would get them into bed and then it was like, thank God I survived. And then I would lay on the couch eating ice cream, watching like Bachelorette PVR as many as I could before finally I was like, I'll go to bed and then, you know, be up several times through the night and then wake up again to my kids being my alarm clock. And that is what life was like. And I was so exhausted and I was just so run down. And I mean, I was happy and I was so like grateful for all I had. Like it wasn't like I was depressed or anything, but it was just kind of like pretty blah and boring. And I didn't really feel like I just felt like, okay, well, this is mom life. Like that's mom life summed up like in a nutshell. And then I just started to think like, God, I'm waking up and I'm so angry with my children. Like all I ever wanted in my whole life was to be a mom. And I wanted 4 children and I've got 4 children. Yet why am I waking up and I'm resentful of them? I am so tired and I'm blaming them and it's ruining my whole day. Like, and then I'm getting mad because I have no time for myself and, you know, I can't get anything done. And all I want to do is just feel calm and happy and relaxed. And I never feel like that. And I'm very self-aware. So it was very quickly, I was like, well, maybe I should get up earlier than them. And so then I was like, all right, I'll try that tomorrow. And you kind of know what time your kids wake up pretty consistently. So I just set my alarm clock for 15 minutes early. And, you know, it was painful. My alarm went off and it's like painful. It sucks. And so I was like, oh, nope, getting up. And I got up and I don't know what I did the first day. Like I probably just like sat on the couch and made coffee and just like sat there in silence and in the dark. And it felt so good. Like it felt like a freaking vacation, just sitting in the silence in the early morning. And then, you know, one child wakes up and I found myself happy to see them and hear them and be with them and talk with them. And I realized so quickly, like, oh, wow, I'm onto something here. And so the next morning I did it again and I did it again and I did it again. And I started just sort of like extending the time, making it half an hour, like however much time I could get to myself. It was like I craved it. And yes, like what everybody always says is like, well, my kids aren't sleeping through the night. I I can't get up earlier. I need all the sleep I can get. And what I always tell people is, well, like the extra 15, 20, 30 minutes that you're staying in bed in the morning, is that actually making you feel more energized? Is that really making you feel better?
There's studies that say that if you, like, when your alarm goes off, you should get out of bed at that time, because if you try to go back to sleep after that, you'll actually become more tired because your body will start another cycle of REM sleep, and then you're disrupting that REM, which is why a lot of times people become more tired. And honestly, like, your kids are going to get up throughout the night anyways. You're going to be tired anyways. Like, it's just a season of life. Figure it out, get up and do something that, like, to me, because I mean, like, I'm very much in that season. Like, my kids do not sleep through the night, and so it's a constant battle every morning when my alarm goes off at 5. Like, do I really want to get out of bed? But I'm like, I'm gonna be an angry, irritable, frustrated jerk all day long if I don't have at least 5 minutes to myself.
Yeah, like either way, when you're in this season of life with little kids, you're gonna be tired. Like, just get over it, realize it, just accept it. Like, I've been tired for 10 years. Like,
Yeah,
it's not gonna end. Like, I still don't sleep through the night. Somebody is always like, now I just wake up, I'll crack open my eye, and there's just like someone staring at me. And I'm like, I'm just gonna ignore you. And eventually they walk away. But still, it's like, I never sleep through the night, and I haven't for 10 years. So we're gonna be tired. Realize that, accept it, get over it. But there's a difference between feeling tired and irritable and angry and frustrated, or you can feel tired and energized and happy and content and calm. You can feel those feelings and be tired at the same time. So, like, what do you want to feel? And every single morning, still to this day, and I've been waking up at 5 a.m. for like 4 years, still to this day, when my alarm clock goes off, there's like this split second part of me that's like, just stay in bed, stay in bed. And then this other part clicks in like immediate and is like, how do you want to feel? Will this be worth it? What will your next whole day, 12 hours be like if you make this one decision right now to stay in bed? And it is enough for me to get up every single morning and just go, screw it. I'm going to be tired. Like, I need that time to myself. It is like magic.
As soon as you said that, the two things that came to my head were immediate gratification versus like a delayed gratification, right? So while in the moment you will get that immediate gratification of maybe that 5 or 10 minutes of sleep, you will reap those consequences the entire rest of the day. Whereas in that same moment, if you delay that immediate gratification, you're going to feel more gratification and reap those consequences, or I would say benefits, the entire day. So it's like, how do you want to set up like that literally that first 5 seconds sets the tone for your whole day.
It does. And it's just, it's just like not even fair to my kids now. Like, I really am making that decision for them as much as I am for myself, because like, it's not fun being super irritable and angry with your kids. And like that feeling of like, do I even like my children? Like, do I actually like these little people? and I want to like them. And the only way that I can feel like that true content and be present with them is if I have given myself that time. And even as little as like 5 or 10 minutes can change your whole day. And then what I always tell people too is if like you're planning on implementing a morning routine and just saying, okay, I'm going to wake up early tomorrow. Well, heads up, your kids are going to sabotage you. Like, they will try to sabotage you.
They're out to get you.
They are. And even if you don't tell them, like, you don't even have to say out loud that you're going to get up early. They will know, even if you don't even make a sound. They are like censored to know, and they will wake up either like 2 minutes before you're supposed to get up, or they'll wake up 2 minutes after, and they'll try to ruin it for you. But just don't let them ruin it. Just don't let them ruin it, and just keep going. And eventually they'll get used to your habit too. Like, don't give in just because it's hard and things are getting in your way. And like, oh, now my kids are waking up even earlier. Well, who cares? Just keep going. They'll adjust. They'll work themselves out.
Yeah, kids will figure it out. And I mean, and so like, there's been times where my kids get up and I will sit them right next to me and I will put in earbuds and I can see them and I know they're okay. But I'm like, all right, like you can be awake, but I'm still going to do my thing. And that took me a bit because like when they're awake, I feel like my attention should be on them. And then I start to feel that guilt. And then that, the other stuff starts to seep in where if I'm like, all right, you're just going to have to sit there for 5 minutes and be okay while I figure out whatever's going on for the rest of the day kind of thing. So can you tell me, or can you tell listeners how you first started to set up your morning routine and kind of what it looks like now? And I know, it changes. I don't know how often yours changes. It seems like mine changes with every season, like literally every season, winter, fall, spring, summer. But how do you tell people to start with a morning routine? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, my routine has definitely changed. And sometimes I actually change it up on purpose just to keep it fresh and exciting and new. And to always just evaluate, like, is this still working as effectively as it was? Because it's going to change with you, with your children, with your, like what's happening in your life, with seasons like summer, winter, like everything will change your morning routine. Mm-hmm. But a book that I read that helped me so much was The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod.
Yep,
that was like,
that's so funny.
Yeah, and I do recommend that book for. Sorry. I do recommend that book for anybody who is like doesn't really even know where to start for a morning routine, because it lays it out. It lays it out so perfectly of like literally step by step what to do, and then you can kind of customize it yourself. So in the early days of my morning routine, I really didn't do anything productive. It was more of just like get up and just like sit and be like, oh, wow, this feels good. And then I started to get more intentional about it and started to think like, well, what do I actually want? Like, what would feel good? Meditation was always something that like I wanted to do. But again, when are you going to do a meditation when you've got 4 kids running around the house? Like, you're not. It's like, unless you create the space for it and the time for it. So that was something that I knew I wanted to have in my morning. And I love reading. I love personal development. I love reading anything. Like I could read for hours. So I knew reading was something that I wanted to incorporate into my morning routine. And also working out. That's just something that has become a habit for me. So that's part of my morning routine as well. So I think for people starting out with creating morning routine, it's like, well, what do you want to have happen in that morning? Like, what do you need in your day that you're otherwise not allowing yourself to get done? Maybe that's work. Like maybe you are starting up a business from home and there's no other time for you to do your business, and that might be your morning. A lot of other moms that I've helped kind of create morning routines for, they will like unload the dishwasher first thing in the morning and throw in laundry. Like that's part of their morning routine, and that feels really good for them. So there's no like, this is what you should do during your morning. It's really figuring out, well, what do I need? Like, what do I actually need? And for me, it was silence. It was like no social media. It was just like sitting, relaxing, meditating, like journaling. All of those things was what I needed for my routine. And you don't need an hour to do all of that stuff. Sometimes my morning routine is like 15 minutes. Like it all depends. I do like to sort of carve out like an hour from like 5 till 6. That is just like my time. But for you, it might be 20 minutes that you give yourself. And that is more than enough. It really is.
Yeah, I like that. And I think it's funny that you even said, hey, you can do a load of laundry, you can do dishes, you can work on your business, because I feel like we see so much of what other people do for their morning routines, or like, you see like the 5 a.m. club and things like that. And you almost feel like you have to have the exact same morning routine as somebody else. And just bringing that awareness to like what feels good for you stick with that. Like if you hate reading, probably don't take up reading first thing in the morning, because then you're just going to set that tone for your whole day, you know. But I do the laundry thing. I found that if I can make 10 minutes for a load of laundry every day, it's much more manageable than waiting till Sunday and hating my entire day of laundry, you know. So I love that you touched on that. What does your morning routine look like then? Like right now, like in this season?
Yeah. So right now, I wake up at 5, and I should also tell you about something really cool that's helping me first thing in the morning.
Let's hear it.
We'll come
Tell me
back
all
to
the secrets.
that. Yeah. So my alarm goes off at 5 a.m. I get up, quickly throw on my workout clothes because I know that I will then work out if I've got my workout clothes on. And I come into my office and drink a ton of water. And I will go over my to-do list for the day, like look at my planner, just kind of like get my mindset right about like what's coming up today, what I'll be needing to focus on. And I try to make my to-do list the night before so that I'm not spending too much time in the morning and it's already like there, but I just kind of review it. And then I will read for about 10 minutes. And I have to be strategic with my morning routine because I can't just like be laying around relaxing until the kids wake up. Like if I want to get what I need to get done and get a workout in, I have to be really intentional. So I set my timer. So I'll set my timer for 10 minutes and I will read for 10 minutes. And then I will, I use the 5-minute journal, which is a really great introductory journaling tool for people. And I just love it. It's like obviously super quick. So I'll write in my 5-minute journal. And then if I feel like I want to journal more, I never force journaling on myself. But if I'm like, oh, there's just like some stuff that I feel like I'm holding on to or I need to like release or just like get out of me, then I'll set my timer for another 10 minutes and I'll do some journaling. If I don't do journaling, I will probably do like a 10-minute meditation. And then I get into my workout right away. So that all together, like, you know, maybe like my actual morning stuff before my workout is maybe taking like 30 minutes tops. So not a huge chunk of time. And then I get into my workout because I can work out with my kids around, but I focus a lot more on it if they're not around. And I love being done when they wake up. Like they're like, did you do it already? I'm like, yeah, my workout's done. Like, let's go have breakfast. And so that's kind of like what a school day would look like because I don't have a lot more time. Weekends, I can be a little bit more flexible and maybe take a bit more time to sit and read and journal. But 5 a.m. is just non-negotiable for me 7 days a week. Every once in a while, I'll say like, okay, I'm not going to wake up at 5. I'm going to sleep in. And it's never worth it. It's never worth it. It screws me up so badly that I'm like, why did I even do that? Didn't even feel that good. Like it's just not worth it. So yeah, that's kind of how my morning routine looks like, but I've switched it so many times. I've obviously, when I read the Miracle Morning, I followed his formula for the longest time, which got me started and which got me into visualization and silence. And that was how I was introduced to those things. And then I read the 5 a.m. Club not too long ago, and I followed that formula. I switched everything up and I followed that formula for a little bit, but then I was like, this isn't actually working for me. So I had to just find my own. And I'm sure in 6 months, my morning routine will change up again somewhat. Maybe I just flip things, or I'll do my workout first and then I'll do a meditation. So it's just whatever works for you.
Yeah, I like that. And I know what you mean about the kids being around with the workouts, because I try to get my workout in the morning, but it goes to that multitasking and how like multitasking is kind of BS because you're trying to like focus on a child, but you're also trying to like focus on this. So you're like, get away from me. Or you're like, don't hit each other. Don't put that in your mouth. Did you just take a poop? Now I have to wait. Like you're going to have to sit in it for 15 minutes, but you got to feel guilty about it.
Yeah, it's so true.
So tell us a little bit, I want to hear a little bit more about your wellness club, because I know this is something that you teach people. This is something that people can be a part of. They can,
Yeah. Yeah, so my wellness club is like it's like a virtual community full of women who really are just wanting to make changes with themselves, with their fitness, with their nutrition, with their health, with creating routines. So it's on a private app, which I love that it has nothing to do with Facebook. It gets you completely off of Facebook, and instead of scrolling the news feed, which is so pointless and energy sucking, you can scroll something that is full of like positivity and full of women trying to change their life and sharing tips and shouting themselves out and shouting each other out. Like, it's so empowering. So inside the wellness club, you can like log your workout, you can log all your food and if you're like trying to lose weight and your measurements, like you can just, it's like a place to hub all of that stuff. And then I am in there several times a day with posts and different like challenges. I sort of make themes every month. So this month for March, we are really focusing on triggers. So emotional triggers with our nutrition, because like nutrition isn't hard. Nutrition isn't complicated. We all know what is healthy for the most part and what isn't healthy. We all know we need protein and vegetables and fruits and healthy fats. So that's not hard. I think everyone can agree that that's actually not hard at all. So then what is hard? It's our emotions that get in the way. And that's what everyone struggles with. It's not knowing like, yeah, you should probably have the salad instead of the greasy burger and fries. But why do we choose the greasy burger and fries? Or why, when you come home from work after a really stressful day and you find yourself in the pantry like with handfuls of chips, shoving them in your mouth, like why? Like after your kids go to bed, why is it that you're laying on the couch eating a big bowl of ice cream, or hiding in the pantry eating the candy that you told the kids they couldn't have? Like, what's going on? And it's emotional triggers, and there's so many different emotional triggers that we all experience. So this month I've sort of been breaking them down, and each month or each week focusing on a different trigger. And it's really cool because they have access to a trigger tracker, which they can start to identify each day, like, whoa, that was actually a trigger. Like, why did I grab the handful of chips when I got home from work? What was going on? What was I feeling? So we focus on stuff like that and morning routines. And yeah.
I love that. So I used to do food journaling because I wanted to know how foods made me feel, or like how I felt before foods. And so anytime I was hungry, what I would do, and this was just to like bring self-awareness to like how I was feeling throughout the day. This was kind of like my journey with nutrition, because I feel like there's so much diet culture out there, but like in general, like we know what's healthy and what's not. But I wanted to know how I felt on eating things. So it's like, well, how do I feel before I want this chocolate bar? Well, somebody just said that I was whatever. And so I'm going to eat this candy because I deserve it. And then afterwards, how do you feel? Well, now I feel like crap because I ate the candy bar, and now I'm going on like a sugar crash. And so like, was that worth it? Probably not. But like bringing awareness to like how I felt before it and after it. So I think that that's really cool that you have a trigger tracker.
Yeah.
What would be like, what's your big trigger for that you've recognized?
Yeah, for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, for myself, it's actually feeling happy and excited.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so for the longest time, I didn't think that I was an emotional eater. I was like, I'm not an emotional eater. I don't struggle with that at all, because when I thought of an emotional eater, I envisioned someone like in their bed eating pizza and chips, crying into their pillowcase. Like that, it was like what I pictured. Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I thought. And so I was like, I'm not an emotional eater at all. Like, nope, not me. But then I realized, oh my gosh, I actually am, because anytime I feel really happy and excited, my brain is like, screw it, I don't care. I feel so good right now. Let's have the dessert.
Donuts and cake and
yeah, let's have this. No big deal. So that is a trigger for me. Another one that we dove into just last week was vacation triggers. So going on.
Oh, that's a big one for me. I would say drinking to celebrate would be one for me. Like, oh, I did this. Like, let's have some wine. Let's have some champagne. But yeah, like vacation, that is a hard one to stay on track.
It's a hard one. And so many people will, work their ass off literally for a vacation and create these amazing habits and feel so good. And then they go on vacation and it's like, screw it. And for 7 days or however long, they are like off the wall, like overindulging. And it's like, why? Why do we do that to ourselves? And I am just as guilty as doing it. But like, and then I heard something and it made complete sense. Like, when we go on vacation, we don't stop brushing our teeth or washing our face. So why is it that when we go on vacation, we stop putting healthy food into our body? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Or we stop working out. If we worked out for 6 months before our vacation, then all of a sudden we go on vacation and we think we're not going to work out for 7 days, and we're going to wake up and eat donuts and drink for 8 hours a day every day. Like, why is
party,
it that,
like overindulge? Like,
yeah. And if you're doing things right, like if you are eating in a sustainable way, you shouldn't feel like you're ever deprived. So you shouldn't go on vacation and be like, oh, I'm just going to let myself have whatever I want this week because I'm always so good and I always, eat super healthy. And there's ways of eating healthy, but also having some treats and indulging in good foods.
so instead of like using vacation as or like food as a reward, you're, not attaching any like emotion to it. And that's why, like, if I, like, every day I have a sweet, like I have a major, major sweet tooth.
Yeah,
and I know that if I cut out all sweets, like I will be that person that will like binge on an entire bag of Reese's peanut butter cups. Like, you told me I couldn't have these for 2 months. Watch me eat this entire bag right here.
Yeah. And going with like emotional eating, it's kind of like what we talked about very early in this conversation was your emotion, whatever it is that's triggering you to go to the pantry, to make the really unhealthy choice that you shouldn't be making and eating, like binge eating, whatever emotion that you're experiencing in that moment, you're still going to be experiencing it when you're done. So that emotion is not going away. So you might as well just deal with it right then instead of not dealing with it and then feeling like shit, feeling like a failure, feeling like a loser, feeling disgusting, and then realizing, oh yeah, and then that thing that was originally bothering me is still there. So now you've just like piled up the problem so much bigger. And it's like, just feel what you're feeling and deal with it. And then of course my girls in my wellness club are realizing all their triggers and they're like, well, what do we do now? I'm like, well, first thing is get rid of the food in your house. Like, if you are constantly eating the chips or eating the candy or eating the ice cream, get it out of your house, like right now, because that emotion will hit, and then your go-to is to open the bag of chips and put your hand in it. But if there's no chips in your pantry, it forces you to stop and go like, okay, well, what's really going on then? Like, it forces you to pause because you don't have the chips. And so instead of like even if you were to get in your car and go to the store, you still have time to process, oh my God, now I'm driving to the store to get chips. Like, this is so messed up. Like, what is actually going on in my life that I need to deal with? And so it's just giving you like time to process what is actually happening. And over time, that will become easier. And you'll be like, oh, this is what I'm feeling. Okay, I'm going to just feel this and deal with it. And then the reaching for the chips becomes less frequent and it's less available. So
Yep. And you can even make those swaps. Like, I know for me, like the self-control sometimes can be, it's hit and miss. Let's be honest. I'm much, much better than I was before. But maybe even making like a healthy swap. So instead of having like a bag of potato chips, maybe you put like an apple there. So like every time you would normally go for a bag of chips, there's a bag of apples, or like instead of going for that bottle of champagne, maybe there's a big bottle of fancy water, like sparkling water, and just like swapping those triggers out. And you're like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm not doing this right now because I don't like the way I feel afterwards. So,
Yeah.
But
I
let's,
used to, like I said earlier, every single night when my kids went to bed, I would fill like a huge bowl of ice cream and sit on the couch and eat ice cream. And I did that for a couple of years, every single night. And then when I started to make changes, I realized that I needed to swap that out. So instead, I got rid of the ice cream, and I had to be very honest with my kids and say, like, we actually can't keep ice cream in the house anymore, because when you guys go to bed, mommy eats the whole tub. Like, that's where it all goes. When you guys say, like, where'd the ice cream go? And I'm like, I don't know. The truth is, I ate it all. I ate all of it. So we can't buy it. Like, it's all gone. I'm a loser. We can't buy the ice cream. If we want ice cream, we're going to have to actually go out and get ice cream cones as a family. So now I really don't eat in the evening now. But when I was transitioning out of that ice cream habit, I would just make like plain Greek yogurt with some peanut butter and whip that up. And that was like such a healthy treat. Then it replaced my ice cream. So just like finding those swaps that you can do is so important.
I love that. Thank you. I do that too. So, all right, we'll start to wrap this up. I know we're coming up on time, and I want to be respectful of your time, even though I feel like we could talk for probably another couple of hours. So what do you want to leave listeners with? Like, if they could have like one big takeaway, maybe two takeaways, like what do you want to leave them with?
I think that you have complete control over how you feel. Complete control. You might think that you don't, but you do. Based on your daily habits and the food that you put into your body, it is completely determining how you are going to feel and how you're going to show up and how you're going to react to your children. So you have 100% control. And when I finally realized, like, wow, I'm the one who's feeling irritable and angry and unmotivated and just kind of like Groundhog Day over and over and over again, I realized I had control over that. I couldn't control my kids waking up. I couldn't control them sleeping through the night. I couldn't control them crying or fighting or whining, but I could control how I handled it and how I showed up to it.
I love that. 100%. One of the biggest. So, all right, one last thing, and that's, how can people find you? How can they learn more? How can they be a part of your wellness community?
Yeah, so just head to Instagram and you can follow me at Megan Rempel 4. I also have a podcast that is still very new. It's called Fit to Be a Mama, and I'm on on Facebook as well. Megan, I think I'm Megan Darling Rempel. It's my maiden name, still on there.
Either way, I'll put all the links in the show notes so that anybody, so they can go over and follow you. And I have been listening to your podcast. I was like waiting for this for like a year and a half. I'm like, God, she just always talks about just real shit. Like, it's about time that she has a podcast. So I know personally, I appreciate your podcast and your sense of humor. But everybody, head to the show notes. I'll put all of Megan's links there so you can go follow her, and you're going to love her. She's going to help you just feel better throughout the day. And I just love that about you. So thank you again for doing this. I really, really, really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to tell us a little bit more about you and your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me.